Our viewers up to speed. You're looking at a live picture inside criminal court. This is in Lower Manhattan. Former President Donald Trump down in the building in another location. He'll be brought up an elevator usually reserved for judges in that building. He'll be brought up by Secret Service, the NYPD, along with all three members of his legal team up to the 15th floor, where he'll then face the judge. He'll be arraigned on those charges. This indictment remains sealed at this hour. They will learn the charges first, obviously. ABC News has been reporting that sources have told us at least 24 charges, separate counts in this case. That number could, of course, be higher. We're being very careful with our reporting and what exactly is in the indictment. Obviously, we simply do not know. There have been many who have asked, does Alvin Bragg, the DA in this case, have any surprises up his sleeve? This is an image of the former president leaving Trump Tower earlier today, a wave to the crowd, a fist bump to the crowd. It was very quick, and in fact, if you glanced away, you missed it. Then taken in the motorcade down to Lower Manhattan. There have been questions about whether or not he'd take Fifth Avenue here in New York. Anyone who's been to New York, or even if you haven't, you know Fifth Avenue, that's where Trump Tower is. They didn't take that route in the end. They went down the FDR, the highway that is just along the East River with the motorcade. Traffic cleared. Pedestrians, for the most part, cleared all over the city. An extraordinary security presence that Pierre Thomas has been reporting on here this morning. Lindsay Davis reporting that those who had gathered outside Trump Tower today were in large part tourists who come to the city. And of course, Trump Tower has become a very familiar stop if you're a visitor in this city. Many of those tourists simply picking this perhaps Easter week with the holiday approaching to bring their family here to visit. And again, they won't forget their timing on this one, given what they've witnessed play out here in New York. The reason we have our camera trained on this particular location, for those of you who might just be joining us, is the fact that the former president will be brought upstairs to the 15th floor at any moment. He'll appear before Judge Juan Merchan here momentarily. That's when he'll learn of the charges. There had been some question about whether or not in the courtroom you would actually hear from former President Trump, not us, because there are no television cameras in court, but whether or not Donald Trump would speak himself. Catherine Falder is getting some indication that the former president does, in fact, plan to plead not guilty himself, not through his lawyers, but himself. And of course, we'll have to wait and see if that comes to fruition. There had also been some questions about whether or not Donald Trump would approach the cameras, take advantage of any opportunity as he got out of the motorcade in Lower Manhattan. Simply did not do that. And whether or not that was a decision made in the moment, we'll certainly report out as the day wears on. We do know that as of right now, there are plans for the former president to speak later today when he flies back to Florida, to Mar-a-Lago, to address reporters there in Florida. The hallway getting very quiet here. I don't know if that's an indication as to whether or not we could see the former president at any moment as he makes his way into that courtroom. And again, Dan Abrams, he'll face Judge Juan Merchan, who is very familiar with the former president and his family business, given the fact that he's presided over a case that gave very intimate details.
Yep, and we've talked about the fact that the ABC News reporting is that there will be, you know, numerous counts here, right, over 24, et cetera. But that doesn't mean it's over 24 sort of incidents it's stemming from,
They
right?
can be very similar.
Correct. It could be numerous counts stemming from 1 or 2 incidents of falsifying a business record once on this, and then in a separate place, and then in another place, et cetera. And so that's where you could see the stacking of the charges with regard to each falsification potentially of a business record, even if they stem from the same incident or incidents.
And of course, there have also been questions about whether or not, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, about whether or not this indictment would include misdemeanors and felonies. I know some outlets have gone ahead and reported, according to sources, that there will be some felony counts inside this indictment. We simply do not know for sure until we see what's in this indictment, and we will find out after the defendant learns what's in the indictment. And in this case, as we've been reporting out here, the history today is that defendant is a former president, something we simply have not seen before. What do you expect from the judge, Kate Shaw, as far as temperament, what he'll expect in that courtroom, and what he'll expect moving forward from this day?
You know, I expect that sort of norms that govern in the courtroom, the norms of law and not politics or political rhetoric, will be expected. Everyone present will be expected to speak in the language of law and not of politics. And I expect the former president's legal team will understand that that is the sort of directive that the judge explicitly or implicitly will be sending them. And I imagine the former president, too, to the extent that he does speak speak himself, will also adhere to the norms of the courtroom. What happens outside of the courtroom later in his remarks or elsewhere, of course, a different story.
Which has always been the challenge, even with advisors in the White House with the former president. But there's no question in your mind that his legal team, particularly now that he's beefed up that legal team, that they've advised him of being very careful, particularly going into what we're looking at here today.
I presume that is right in terms of what happens in court. But of course, former President Trump seems to keep his own counsel in terms of the kinds of statements he makes, on the campaign trail and when he's speaking in a political register. But in court, I imagine the lawyers have been quite clear about what the expectations are.
David, just one other point on the beefing up of the legal team. It shows you he's taking this seriously.
History
right?
in the making.
I think among some that this is
gonna
just
be awesome.
a political thing, right? That Donald Trump is just
So we're
using
going to hear
this,
the
et cetera,
indictment.
and that he's sort of, has no real concern about this. Adding a player like Todd Blanche onto
Big
this
shout out to
team,
Mandy. Hi, Mandy.
already having 2 lawyers,
I just read your
makes it
message
clear
before I came live.
He knows this is serious. He
We're
knows he has
watching
to find the best legal
a moment
representation he can
in
get.
American
And he
history
needs to fight this not just in a court
over
of public opinion,
to America.
but in a court of law. And that's why hiring someone like Todd Blanche, who has an excellent reputation, is so significant in this context.
Again, he's been so successful for so many decades, not only in the political realm of the last decade or so, but even before that in the legal realm. And now both worlds collide. And so the question will be a real test of the former president's skill set, both in the courtroom and in the court of public opinion.
Because remember, a lot of the former president's legal skirmishes have been civil cases, right? They've all been mostly civil. And I say mostly because the Trump organization, even though he wasn't a defendant, was charged criminally, et cetera. In a civil case, you can always settle. You can always just say, I want to end this thing. I'll pay you this amount of money and let's
I
make
mean,
this thing
really,
go away.
is it?
You can try to plead.
Are you amazed? Are you as amazed as I am
But it's
that
not
this
as
is
simple
happening?
as in a civil case. You can resolve differences in a civil case.
I mean, if
in a
this
criminal
isn't
case, it's a very
the
different game. And so as a
criminal
result, this is a new
Biden
arena for him
syndicate
in the legal world as well.
fighting back
Though,
at Donald Trump, I don't know what is.
Said, which
This is
there will
crazy.
be no plea deal
What a
in this case.
humiliation this must be
I mean,
for Donald
this is,
Trump.
again, where
Or
politics intersects with the
is
law,
he such a
right? Which is
narcissist?
that
He's
if
loving
was
it.
just a legal case,
I don't know.
there was no
Hello,
presidential campaign going on,
Katie.
could
Shout
you
out
say,
to Katie,
let's
first one
do
in the
something,
chat.
no jail time, et cetera,
Hello,
maybe we
Katie.
can work something out.
Good to have
There
you
is
in
no
the
way,
house.
no
Hope you had a
how
good weekend.
Donald Trump can plead
And
guilty
Donald
to
Trump,
anything
here.
I mean,
Donald
and this
Trump
goes back to what John
has
talking
been
about this
arrested.
being a central
No doubt
tenet of
he's given
campaign.
his
Can you imagine
fingerprints.
him pleading?
He didn't need to
And-
give a
and then
mugshot.
saying,
They
well,
said
we
his
had to
image
do
is
it.
well
It's
known.
just
They
no
don't
way.
need to
I
take
think
that.
can happen. And that's not a
And
legal
apparently
case.
this is
That's
one
politics
of
makes the
many
law.
indictments
because
coming
he's
down the
facing
pipeline
multiple other
against
criminal
Donald Trump.
cases.
And
So, I mean,
from what I'm
he decides
hearing,
to
this is
plead
only
away
what I'm
this one.
hearing
He's got
from
the,
the mainstream,
the Georgia
is
case
that
involving the election. He's
this
got
particular one
the 2 federal cases under the special counsel
is
Jack
the
Smith.
lamest of them all.
He's got a lot on his plate right now.
So
We should talk our audience through that because
this is going to
that's
be
really
interesting.
important, is that as you're looking at this live picture,
Remember, you
obviously
would
this
have
is
caught
coming from
other
Stormy Daniels' hush money payments.
other
It's all
greats
stemming
when
from
I
that investigation. We don't
covered
know what the
the
charges
death
are, but it
of our
stems from
queen,
that payment, just before
when we
the
covered the
2016
disastrous
election,
Liz
who wanted to
Truss
keep her quiet. Initially, the
coronation,
saying he was unaware of that
as
payment, then
with
acknowledging it and saying there was nothing wrong
Rishi
with it.
Sunak.
Hush money in and of itself
What else did we watch?
is
Oh,
important.
we
It's that
watched
issue
Dart,
here is
didn't we?
whether or not the
We
books
watched a
reflected
NASA
it in an
Dart
accurate way, and then what the DA
smash into that asteroid
that's the
whose
big question
name
here today as we wait the opening of this indictment. Now, what John Carl has just brought up is
who
really significant.
the
for those of
asteroid's
you watching
name
this at home, because this is just
escapes
the
me.
beginning of these legal
Over to
tests that the
Katie.
former president is facing in the coming weeks and months ahead. Jack Smith, of course, the special counsel looking into the events leading up to January.
Are you aware of the
former
lady
president's role in those events? He's also
who has
reviewed the
accused
classified documents
Biden?
discovered at Mar-a-Lago.
Tara
Not just
Reid.
the
No, I
classified
haven't.
documents, because we've
Not
seen,
aware of that.
President Biden
But of
speak with
course,
former Vice President Mike
I
Pence.
haven't heard this Tara Reid. Thanks,
Very
Katie,
significant
for telling me
because there are
about this.
allegations of obstruction,
There's a lady
whether
who's
or not,
accused
the former
Tara
president
Reid. I mean, there's a lot of women who have accused
handing back those classified
Biden
documents.
of stuff.
Going to question members of the Secret Service, the valet,
I'm just thinking back with Biden is because Jessica Lee Collins, that was an exclusive for Guerrilla Democracy News, that Jessica Lee Collins, sex slave to Joe Biden. But here we are. Here we are. I think we've got some stuff coming over to America.
Some movement, of course, we're going to say train on this doorway. There you see Mr. Let's see, we'll wait until the legal team comes through that doorway. That'll be a real sign that the former president will be coming through in short
History
order.
in the making.
But again, this is just the first of the legal challenges, Pierre Thomas,
Welcome,
that this
everyone.
former president faces.
David, and before I get to that,
This
I
is
do
the
want to say
first
one
of
thing
many
about
legal
the
challenges we're
prosecutor
hearing.
here, Mr. Bragg. He is under extraordinary scrutiny today as well. As we await these charges to be unsealed, there's a
Welcome,
question,
everyone.
will
Don't
this
be
truly
shy.
be a speaking indictment? I.e.,
Shout
will
out
it
to
lay
Katie,
out
first
in
one in the
great
chat.
detail what
Shout
the
out to
allegations
Mandy
are, what the
earlier on,
charges
first
are.
one in the chat.
Because some of the prosecutors, former and current, that I've talked to, have basically made the point. He's got to be able
This
to
is a
explain this in a
moment
very
in
clear way,
history.
and he's got to,
Over
in
to
essence,
Katie.
say, I could not walk
Allegedly,
away from this
Biden
without
assaulted
bringing
her
charges.
in
Really interesting point that
1993.
you bring up here. For those of you at
He was
home
staff
wondering what a
assistant to
speaking
Biden at the time.
indictment is, you know, so
Do
often in these
find
criminal
all
cases you'll
this
get a rather
between
straightforward indictment that
presidents
just lists
and
the
etc.
counts, the
strange,
charges.
yes.
Now, in a case
No,
of this
Marie
nature,
earlier on,
given the history being
Katie,
made today, a lot of
Marie
questions
came
about
onto
whether
my
Alvin
live
Bragg will
earlier on.
present
I did
what's
give
called
her,
a speaking indictment, essentially lay out the
well,
story, lay out the
she was
case
butt of my jokes,
that the
put it that
district
way.
attorney is trying to make here. And is there any question in your mind, Kate
Don't
and
be
Dan,
shy.
whether
Come
or
on
not
in
this
and
will be
say
a
hi.
speaking indictment?
So yeah,
You know, I
Katie
presume that
tells
office,
us that
has
allegedly
largely shifted to
Biden
speaking
assaulted
indictments,
her in
particularly in a case
1993.
like
I
this. So
remember
I
that,
expect we're going to see
and I
a good
remember
amount of
Biden
detailed
addressing it,
narrative, not just this
and
sort of
how
bare bones kind of bullet point
Lady
charges.
Gaga
I certainly hope so, because we are
just
all
kind of like
hoping, and
wiped it
viewers
off as
are all
well,
hoping to
you
get
know.
a real sense of
And I
what the
think
case will look like when the DA puts it
Whoopi
on.
Goldberg,
And so I
I
have to
remember
imagine
her,
that's informing the decision.
kind of
So
like
I do
just
expect a speaking
wiping it off.
I think that, in
Terrible.
conjunction with the fact that he's
Haven't
already
seen you
announced
live
he's gonna
earlier.
have a press
Yes,
conference
Katie, I went live. I've done a
afterwards,
cheeky live.
tells you that there's
Only
going to
10
be
minutes.
information in there. I mean, this
Well, it
is
wasn't
not
really
going to
in
be the
it,
sort of
Katie.
thing
What
where
I
he's just
mean,
going to say,
Katie?
okay, you know, this is the legal
It wasn't really in it,
charges, et cetera,
you know.
and gonna discuss
Just
the
got back from a lovely weekend away with my magical imaginary girlfriend.
There's going to be detail in the indictment,
And
as
it's
well,
just,
that
you
will
know,
explain
the same old
exactly
bullies there all the time. But anyway,
think that the
it's
president
cool.
did, why it's a violation
I've been
of
known
the
to be a bit
law,
of a bully.
et cetera. And that's the key, right? It's not just the law, it's the facts and how the facts relate to the law. And
How the
that's what a
facts
speaking
relate to the
indictment
law.
does, is it doesn't just say a violation of this particular law and here's the definition of the law. It explains why the facts in this case
Isn't it
show that there was a
exciting?
violation.
He knows full attorney that he is now.
Yeah, I was a bit like you, Katie. I went live and then I put it on private because I can. As soon as Trump comes out, we will
go down the indictment and we try to report it
go
out
big.
here with your help.
This is a moment in American history, everyone, and you're watching it with me, so thank you.
It's critical. I mean, look, there's
Just
a lot of
like
questions.
we've
I have a
watched
lot of
other
questions, about
momentous
this.
moments
He's
in
gotta help
history.
answer some of those
Remember we
questions, and I think
done the
standard
Queen's
that
death?
Pierre
Damn
talked
right.
about
Damn
is
right
a,
you remember.
It's a very fair one, which is to say it rose to the level
I reckon
of
this is it.
of a case he couldn't walk away from. And that's got to be demonstrated, I think, in the context of the indictment.
And we should
This
point
is
out
it,
here
Pete.
that even though we have remained
This is a
focused on this
moment in
camera, there's not some
history.
delay here that we're
That's
watching
cool, says
unfold. It's
Katie.
still
Is it?
just
Is it
2:08.
cool,
We have always
Katie?
believed
Is
that it was
it?
about 2:15, the arraignment
I
would
shouldn't be
take place.
taking
So,
my
even if
frustrations
perhaps
out
the
on
former
you, the
president's on the
audience,
other
and
side of that door, it'd be very
poor
good. Maybe,
Mandy.
you know, perhaps the judge is signaling
Poor
he's going to
Mandy
do
got the
things
brunt
the way
of
we
my
were scheduled to do
frustrations
things.
earlier on.
Aaron Kotursky just outside that building in Lower Manhattan.
So like Mandy recommended I concentrate on world events. And what better, what more of a world event is this? The indictment of Donald Trump, an ex-president. A president who actually still maintains he was robbed of an election. Call to put your live to private if you choose, I mean. Yes, thank you, Katie. Is it cool, though? Is it cool? Because I don't think it is, Katie. I'm only cracking about with you now, mate. But, you know, this is what I done to Marie earlier on, Katie, so don't worry about it. But is it cool, Katie? No, once it's gone out in the public, isn't it the public's domain? Okay, this is it. Donald Trump. The excitement is building. Can you hear this?
I see there the chief of the court security officers in the cropped white hair and in the white shirt.
This is a moment in American history, everyone. A moment in American history.
is imminent.
Is
The gentleman
imminent.
right in the middle
Love that
in
word.
the purple tie is one of the spokesmen for the Office of Court Administration who helped coordinate some of the former president's movements. And there is District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
All right, yeah. So we're
District Attorney Alvin Bragg
actually,
is
we
just
must
being brought
be
up the elevator
out
as
in the
well,
public,
and
out
into
in
the
the
courtroom
on the
under heavy
street.
guards. David, the Manhattan DA has endured a number of
So no
attacks,
doubt he's been
including
inside the
that
courtroom. He's
was
had
sent
his
to his office
fingerprints
along with a
taken.
death threat that said, "Alvin, I'm
He's
going to
gone
kill
before the
you."
judge, and the
Ever
judge
since
has
then,
told him what
he has
he's
been
been
under
accused of.
immediate protection. His
And
security
then
detail
Trump
has
would
been
ultimately
expanded,
give his
so
plea.
has the security
And then
around some
that's
of the key
today's job
prosecutors
over and
involved
done
in
with.
this case. And you could see him
The
there
process
entering
has
court
begun.
under the protection of officers, David.
No question, Aaron, thank you. A clear
And of course, a
sign
lot
that
of
this is
people
about to
think
get underway. We have just seen the Manhattan District
he'll
Attorney
never
Alvin
do
Bragg
time. A
enter
lot of
the
people are
courtroom on
wishing
the
he'll do
15th floor
time,
of
but
the
that's something I
criminal
share
court
with Donald Trump
in
myself.
Lower Manhattan.
Everyone, a
Aaron
big,
mentioned under
a massive shout out
heavy security
to
on the
Mandy
15th
Marlin
becoming
in the
president.
house. Hello,
To
Mandy.
protect this DA
Great
who
to
is
have you
taking
here, mate.
incoming
Awesome,
criticism,
duper. Thanks for the message.
very heated criticism in
Yep,
recent
so
days,
sorry I was a
not
bit
only from
hard on
former
you. I
president
was
supporters, but
just
from the former
taking
president
my
himself,
frustration out, and that's
John
terrible.
Carl.
And it
Donald
leads
Trump
on to
saying
another
that
thing.
Alvin Bragg
You know,
should be indicted.
should we treat
He
our
said he should indict
audience like
himself. He
this?
said that late last night. He's
Like,
also
should
gone
I
after
be? Should
Bragg's
I ever
wife.
take my
It's
frustrations
been
out on the audience?
extraordinary, the
And equally,
vitriol with which he has
should
gone after this man.
Katie
He's called him an
stop putting
animal.
her
He's
lives
gone
on
after him in
private?
deeply personal
After all,
terms,
I'm only playing
as
devil's
he's also
advocate.
attacked the
After all,
judge. This
once
is-
we put
this is
something
Donald
out in the
Trump's
public,
style.
doesn't
It's
it
always
become
been
the
his style.
public's?
We know how he went
You know what I
after,
mean?
Robert
No,
Mueller
thank
and
you,
Mueller's
Mandy. Yeah,
investigations. We know
no,
how he went
yeah,
after
it was wrong
the
of me
Democrats,
to
who led the
take
impeachment
my
drive, both
frustrations out.
impeachment drives,
But it was such a
in-
nice
in
weekend away,
Congress, and the Republicans
and it was
joined
so
in that
nice to
second
see you, first one in the
drive,
chat room.
but
So
now,
thank you
again,
very much,
he's in a
Mandy.
criminal process where he
You know,
is
I only
not
go
in
live
total
because of
control
you.
anymore.
A trained fighter,
And I
through
really
his own life
appreciate you
experience,
jumping on in,
political
being the
and
first to say
business
hi.
experience leading up to this moment. But again, John, he's never faced this kind of fight before.
Yeah, and you know his mentor on such matters was the former
Waiting
lawyer
for
Roy
something.
Cohn.
No worries, glad
Taught
you
him
sound
that
better. Yes,
you
don't let the
fight,
bastards
you
get you
never
down,
acknowledge
says
anything, you never concede anything.
Marie. Damn
Another
right.
thing that Roy Cohn told him, and Trump has talked
Good
about
advice
this in recent
by
days,
a show's
with some
regular
of his confidants,
Marie.
is, you know, you
So we're
don't get
waiting
arrested
with
because
this
you lose
Trump
control.
about to
Aaron
come out
Bertinsky,
at
who covers
any
criminal
moment.
cases for us often.
Moment in
Very
history.
valuable to have him
And of
downtown
course,
today for us. And
what
Aaron,
better
as we look at
place
this
to watch
image,
moment in
what does this tell
histories
you? And we believe the former president has
than
been
with me,
faced.
your
Now
host,
that's reportable.
Matt Taylor. Remember the
Yes,
most
we've
other
just learned
moment
that
in
Alvin
history
Bragg with
we
colleagues
shared?
Santucci and
That
Catherine
moment in
Fulton
history when the
said
Queen
the
died.
former president has
And then that
been
moment in history when Liz
processed. That is
Truss
now complete.
became
That
Prime Minister.
processing
And that
included,
other moment in history when Liz
his
Truss
fingerprints.
got
So
sacked
that
as
process is
Prime
now
Minister.
complete, and any moment now it's expected he will
And
be
then we
brought
had
up the
that
elevator,
amazing moment
there
when
behind
the dart,
closed
NASA's
dark
dart,
doors,
plunged,
to be
smashed into that
escorted
asteroid.
into court.
Hey, listen, we're going to go big screen because I get the impression
Perhaps more than 2
we're
dozen
about to
felony
see
charges.
Donald
At that
Trump.
moment, the indictment will
We're
be
about to
unsealed,
have
David,
a moment in
and we will
history.
finally get a look at the charges for ourselves. As part of the processing, the defense
Can you
was
hear the
given a
excitement
courtesy
build?
copy of the indictment to review with Trump before he
It's
enters
been
court
emotional,
so that he
says
can
Mandy.
knowledgeably enter his plea of
TikTok
not
have been
guilty, which
fined
his lawyer had
12.7
already
million
advertised he
for
would do.
data law
But he will
breaches, says
know
Katie.
exactly
Yeah, I was just
what
watching
he's
that on the
pleading
news,
not
funny
guilty
enough.
to from the moment he enters the room, David.
Everyone's been
Aaron,
held to
as
account.
someone who knows criminal court well, given your reporting for years,
Me
the
yesterday,
layers of
Donald
security
Trump today.
represented in this live
Who's it
picture.
going to be tomorrow? You.
It's really extraordinary. I see Secret Service agents. I see court security officers.
It's
I see
so
members of the
exciting, isn't
DA
it,
squad,
everyone?
that would handle
We're
personal
watching
security for the district attorney
a
and also
moment in
deal
history.
with criminal
Isn't that
defendants
amazing?
like former President Trump in this case. And they're just the ones
Absolutely
that are
amazing.
on the 15th floor outside the courtroom.
Round up,
I've seen a number
everyone.
of
This is a
officers,
moment in history.
The bald gentleman in the foreground.
Donald Trump,
and the gentleman
ex-president of
in
the United States.
gray beard in the
From what?
background
What are we
who,
saying?
cannot be
2016,
randomly assigned to any
2020?
courtroom, but are frequently assigned to the courtroom of
All
Judge
through those 4
Walter
years,
Son, the presiding
impeached,
judge in this case.
sabotaged, and
Outside,
harangued.
David, there are
That
two
very same
rows
president
of
is now
security
about to walk
officers
out
in in front of the
of a
building,
New
along
York
a
courthouse,
row of metal
being the
barricades.
first
So this
president
building is entirely
in the
locked down.
history of the United
Aaron,
States
thank you. As we stay
to
trained
be
on the 15th
indicted
floor
for a
here,
criminal
I want to
offense.
bring in John Santucci because,
This is
John, as you heard Aaron
huge.
report there, they
This is
now
the
have the
15th
indictment in
floor of the
hand.
New
The
York
former
Criminal
president
Court
and his
in
legal team, I
Manhattan.
presume they're reading it on
New
their way up to the
York,
courtroom.
United
David, our
States of
understanding is
America.
that once
Or across
processing
the
was
pond, as I like
completed,
to say.
the Trump legal
Former
team would
President Trump
join
has
the
been
former president, would
fingerprinted.
walk him through that. It is our understanding that
He would
process
have
is
been
happening right now. As
brought
Aaron
in
just
front of a
reported,
judge.
processing was relatively
The
quick. They
judge would have
did, as we
told the
reported
president
from
what he's
Aaron,
being
Catherine,
accused
and
of,
I, include
and the
fingerprinting. We
president, the
understand there was no
ex-president, would have
mugshot taken
given his
of the
plea.
former president, but now that process of reading through the
No
charges, that will be the
mugshots
first
necessary,
time
we hear.
Trump and his team actually see what the charges are. As you've said, we've reported here.
We're going to find
we are
out what the
told it
chances
includes
are.
well over
Not
2 dozen
exclusively, but
counts. And now the
live on
question
Matt
is
Taylor
Donald Trump
TV
heading into
via
court. What
courtesy
is
of
that about to
ABC
look like,
News.
David?
And until this moment, John, had they been given any hint from the DA's office as to what was in that indictment, or simply nothing?
Nothing,
History in the
David.
making.
If anything, the conversations over the last couple days have been described as pleasant logistic planning, according to my sources, and that is the extent of it. There has been no conversation as to what is in this document, if it includes felonies, if it includes
Over to Katie,
misdemeanors.
who says,
There's a lot of questions
find
now,
it
David, as
He is
to, quite
indicted a
frankly,
week or so
what this is
after
going to look like,
Tara
and
Reid
what's
hints
Trump's
at
reaction to
possible
it. A lot of
investigation
aides
into
have been
Biden
texting me that are not
accusations.
there.
Now, look, this is
bracing.
fantastic bit of
They're waiting
info.
to
Thanks,
see
Katie.
what his reaction is going to be.
Of course, whenever we're looking at this, there's something we aren't looking at, and Katie has just delivered it to us on a silver plate.
And of course, the question, are
Katie
there any
says
surprises in this indictment?
she finds it strange that he is indicted a week or so after Tara Reid hints at possible investigation into Biden accusations. So thanks ever so much for that heads up, Katie. I think we'll be following that, and we'll see where that leads us. Shout out to Laura. We have a Laura in the chat room, a Laura, a Creepster. Laura Creepster, welcome. TikTok is for creepy old men to spy on children. I disagree, but terrible. Terrible if creepy old men are using TikTok to creep out on children. We need a better policed TikTok. That's what I say, Laura Creepster.
I just want to pause
You
to
creepster.
listen in on the silence.
Well, Laura, funny enough, I find you a bit strange coming on saying that kind of thing. Let's be nice, Laura. Over to America.
Certainly, every officer
You
in
don't
that
see
hallway, both
Laura.
from the
Interesting.
NYPD,
So it must be
Secret
someone
Service,
who's been originally,
law enforcement that
or
works
you've
for the
blocked,
courthouse.
no doubt.
They know the heaviness of this moment too. And you do have to wonder,
Abby's just
after so
text.
many legal tests and political tests over the years, if the American people in some way have become, somewhat immune to sort of these new chapters in the Trump story. But I think our viewers know full well that whether you support him or not, that this is truly historic here.
David, having covered a number of court cases in my career, one thing strikes me every single time. When a defendant walks into the court and sees the judge,
Laura,
they are not in
Katie
control.
said she loves you.
And this
Isn't
is
that
a
lovely?
moment
Katie
when a
said
few
she
moments
loves
where
you.
Donald Trump will walk into it.
We're watching this moment in time, everyone.
And he's
moment.
not in
Abby
control
says
at all.
okay.
And it always
We're
strikes me
watching
because
this moment in
you
time.
immediately want to put yourself in that
Ray
defendant's position
Peterson.
because you're looking at the judge.
Tell
And the judge
Laura,
is going to
Laura,
have
I love
enormous
her.
sway over what happens. And it's just a very profound
Balance
moment for any
was
person,
better.
be it former president or the average everyday person.
The judge in
Healthy
this case,
conversation in
Juan
the
Rashan,
chat. Don't be shy.
in
Come
that
on in and
courtroom.
say
We know
hi.
the DA,
Join
Alvin Bragg, also in that courtroom as well.
Mandy, Katie, and
John Carl, you and I both
Laura.
know from interviewing the
Even
former
though
president many
Katie cannot
times through
see
the
what
years,
Laura writes.
the political
Strange.
bravado that the public sees.
Oh, we have a new.
We also know
we have
the
a
other
new
side of him,
entity
which
in the chat. Thank you for being brave, jumping
they'll
in and saying
acknowledge
hi.
the reality of the moment along
That's
the way.
the name of a
Certain in
song,
this moment from our
Matthew
own reporting,
says.
Catherine John Santucci,
Use of
describing him as melancholy in the last 24 hours, that he understands understands the gravity of this moment too.
You can see it in those brief.
I'm not very
moments
good
that
at
we've
anything
seen
more
him
than
coming
5
in
letters,
and
to
out
be
of
honest.
Trump Tower into
A
the
chicken duck
courthouse.
move.
You know, he gave that
Yeah.
brief kind of fist
Macarena.
pump.
Hey,
But
Macarena.
you
Hey,
can tell,
we love a bit of
I
Hey
think anyway,
Macarena.
having followed him and known him
God, I
for
haven't had
so
Hey
long,
Macarena in a long time.
the weight of the
Hey,
moment,
Macarena.
he
Wait.
undoubtedly feels. And I
Hello,
think that's why he hasn't done a lot of what they initially said he was going to do. I mean, there was talk of him having a big event at Trump Tower. I think I mentioned to you earlier, David, there was even talk of him riding down the escalator to go down to the lobby on the way to being arraigned, kind of reenacting the announcement of his 2016 presidential campaign. But there's been none of that. He's been, you know, he has been quiet. He's getting in and out of New York as quickly as he possibly
look at that
can.
guy,
I'm
look
sure
at
we're
that
going to see
guard.
him,
I know you can't really
you
see it,
know,
it's the chat
going
on the
all
screen.
out tonight in
Let me get
Mar-a-Lago,
rid
and
of the
he's
chat.
been doing his social media. I mean, he actually,
We've got to catch it,
you know,
all
issued a
this in
social media post from that
glory, everyone.
motorcade down to the courthouse. You know, once again, attacking this judicial system.
And in fact, John, he said, heading to Lower Manhattan, the courthouse seems so surreal. Wow, they are going to arrest me. That was the message from former President Donald Trump on his way to court. Kate.
Yeah, and we've been using the term he's under arrest, and I think it's worth pausing for a second. I think we think of arrest as just involving handcuffs, but arrest means you're not free to leave, and he has not been free to leave. He is under arrest since he entered that courthouse.
A very different scenario from what he's used to here.
Absolutely. He's the most powerful person in most
the
rooms.
judge
As John was just saying, he's going to walk into he's going to walk into that courtroom.
He's the risk.
He is not the most powerful person.
And that the charges are so serious that he's going to be
Donald Trump.
I think just the facial expressions of the officers in this hallway say a lot, Dan.
He's going to be kept in custody.
They know this is a big
Could
deal.
happen.
And as
Never
you
know.
said, David, whether you support Donald Trump or you don't support Donald Trump is irrelevant, I think, for the purposes of the law enforcement that are there. They're there to do a job. They know it's an important one. They know this is a serious moment.
Well, we have a
They
new.
know that
Hi,
they have
Matt.
to take
Remember
this
me from Bangkok?
seriously. They know that the cameras are focused on them. And so, you know, I think that this is reflecting that. But
Remember
then
me from
again,
Bangkok. Sheila.
there
Sheila
is also
Vadik.
something
Sheila
about this law. This is
Vadik.
very different from what happens every day in
Oh,
this courthouse.
God.
Most of us,
Make me laugh.
most people who aren't lawyers
Shelby.
would know this courthouse from
Shelby
jury duty.
Bing. Where we go, one we
that's
go.
about
Oh,
it.
yes, damn right.
But, you know, these
Can
are
you
the
believe
same
it?
officers
Moment
who
in
are
history.
there.
You're watching it with me, Matt
Very
Taylor
many,
TV.
obviously, the
Welcome,
number
welcome
of
everyone.
who
You
work
know
in
it's the
these
right thing to
courtrooms
do.
every day, who
You know
work
it's the
with
right thing to
juries
do.
every day, and they're just there
Sharing this
doing their
moment in
job.
history with me and
They
you.
are doing their job. We saw a gentleman in the suit there and the pin.
So
which gives it away, the
exciting,
Secret
isn't it?
Service, Pierre.
Isn't it so
Layers of
exciting?
Law enforcement gathered.
Keeps asking me how
throughout
old
Manhattan
he
today.
is,
The
says Mandy.
barricades, couple of barricades deep outside
Good
the
to see
courthouse,
everyone. It's great to see
outside Trump
everyone
Tower.
jump
That
on
is
in.
usually the
Listen,
case. They're
don't be
reinforced,
shy.
obviously, knowing that the former
Jump
president
on
is
in and
coming
say
back,
hi.
to New York from Mar-a-Lago.
Big shout
Just the
out to
coverage of the last
Katie,
24 hours on
Mandy,
cable news, the
Shelby,
live coverage of his plane
Vadik,
taking off from Florida and then landing in New
Shelley,
York.
Vadik,
Surreal in
youth
nature,
nuts
they're
on,
reminiscent
nuts
of
of
other inflection points along the way in covering
Let's try and
Donald
keep
Trump,
the
his
username
political
simple
career.
because
And
I
now
have
it brings us here
difficulty
to criminal court
with
in Lower
any
Manhattan. Every time we hear one of
words
those
more than
tones
5
or those
letters.
bells, we wonder, is it the elevator? Is it some sort of signal? Now, we do know that they
I
have
love you, long
always
time.
intended to have this arraignment at about
I love
2:15
you. Say my
Eastern,
name. Call
here
my
in New
name
York. We know
again.
from,
I love you long
Aaron,
time. No,
John,
I'm not going to call
Catherine's
your name.
reporting
It's like
that
ringing
the
up.
president
It's
has
like
been-
Bart
finger
ringing
permit
up
has
the
been
Moe's
processed,
bar, isn't it?
booked like any other
And
criminal
calling
defendant
out
already.
names. I'm not going to be
What's
calling your
transpired
name
here in
out.
the interim is that the
Thankfully,
former
I
president
cannot
and his
bloody
legal
see
team
what
have
you've
now
written
been
because
given the
my
indictment.
eyesight is
It's
so
important to
bad.
point out that they also had no hint.
Anyway,
You know,
back
like
to
the
this
rest of us
moment in
waiting today to
history.
see what Alvin Bragg,
As we wait
is going to
for
present
the
in this
ex-president
courtroom
Donald
as far
Trump
as the
to come
indictment
out,
against Donald Trump. They
an
have not seen it
indicted
until
man.
today. So this trip
Please,
up
no.
to the 15th floor.
No, I'm not going to
in
do
this
it.
elevator that's been reserved for the
I'm not
former
going to do
president
it.
will no doubt include at some point along the way a moment to read through this indictment, to digest what they will be in that courtroom to face. And Terry Moran, this notion that once you walk into a courtroom and you're before the judge, there's nothing more stark than that moment when you realize the judge is now in control.
Look, if you want to do your childish call-out names about men's members, you can do that on another channel. Somebody springs to mind.
Donald Trump, and we should spare a thought right now for the many, many thousands
New
of
York
Americans
State
who are
Court.
famous, who have come within the grip of the long arm of the law, justly, maybe some unjustly, Donald Trump now as well. And I always thought covering trials, going into courthouses around the country, that I was lucky to be a reporter because you always see people having the worst day of their lives. They're under arrest, or they're family members of those
Shout out
who
to
are
everyone
under
watching.
arrest.
We're
They're facing
imminently
an
watching
ordeal,
Donald Trump
one
come
that
out.
they may well have brought on justly on themselves because of their conduct.
It's going to
But
be
this is a personal drama that even someone as defiant and
Shout out to
public is as strong as Donald Trump has been in the face of all kinds of impeachments and civil cases and accusations and getting caught red-handed on tape doing things. This is different.
Enormous pressure on the former president, who's now running for president for a third time. But Terry, also unspeakable pressure on this district attorney. There are a lot of people in this country who want to know why this indictment and why now.
Absolutely, and in
why
fairness,
this indictment and why now?
This is a
Good question.
Unusual prosecution in its process.
Why this indictment
This
and why
district attorney
now?
Ran for office. He asked voters to support him because he communicated to them that he was the kind of person who had what it takes to get Donald Trump. He boasted that he'd sued the Trump organization, Donald Trump, before in a previous capacity. He said he would hold Donald Trump accountable. He politicized the investigation. When he got to office, he did halt the investigation that was then underway in that office, the Manhattan District Attorney's office. He decided to do away with that one, which looked at whether Donald Trump had inflated his assets. And then he reached back 6 years to resurrect the Stormy Daniels case that his predecessor had neglected.
So this is the Stormy Daniels case, isn't it? Yes.
This is a highly unusual
Stormy Daniels, 6 years old. Stormy Daniels case. Now, they asked the question, why this indictment and why now? We can again go over to Katie, who herself has asked a similar question. Do find it strange, indicted a week or so after Tara Reid. Tara Reid.
Inside this indictment, our team now reporting that the
And
former
then,
president is on his way
quote,
upstairs,
hints
inside this building. Of
at
course, forgive me for repeating for
possible
those of us who have been out there watching and
investigation.
way here, but again, for those just joining, we're coming up on 2:30 here in the East. The former president in Lower Manhattan. This is criminal court
Biden
the 15th floor.
accusations. So there we have our answer.
Again, usually reserved for the judges.
Why this indictment and why now? Well, funny enough, because Tara Reid is hinting at an investigation into Biden.
Former president is taking this
So,
very seriously.
and that's another reason to watch
before Judge Juan Merchan in that
historic
courtroom.
events
There had been questions about
with Matt
whether
Taylor
or not
TV.
there would be
Because the audience, the
first time we have
the audience. Oh look, I think we're going to go over. We're going to go over. Something's big about to happen.
We know he's already been booked. He is a criminal defendant entering a courtroom in Lower Manhattan.
He's already been booked.
And that did not look like somebody that was celebrating a moment that he would be able to capitalize on his campaign.
Cody I like it. Cody
This is
X-Con.
the thing that seals
Brian Hurl is in the house. Matt Chat and everyone. It's a sad day seeing Trump in jail. He isn't in jail yet.
Happy to be there. He was with his,
Not in jail
his
yet.
legal team, the three lawyers
It was
that you mentioned, but also Boris Epstein.
Well, thank you ever so much for jumping in. Great to have you in here. We're waiting on this moment in history. You're sharing this moment in history with me. Knob cheese. Knob cheese vegan. Let's dropped a funny one. Was Stormy Daniels related to Paul? Very funny. Stormy loves me, says Knob Cheese Vegan. Well, here we are, everyone. Trump is coming out.
And he walked into the courtroom. There is something different, though, and this goes back to something
Trump
we've been talking
is
about
out.
up to this point, which is there's something different about walking into a courthouse. There is.
There
There's
he
just
is.
a different
Trump is
feeling
there.
that even if, when he gets back to
Why aren't we
Mar-a-Lago,
watching it live?
he
Here he
starts,
comes.
you know,
Look at him. Look at this.
going back
Look.
to much of the rhetoric.
He's looking
that
right at
he's
the
issued
camera,
about his
everyone.
DA, etc.
That
when you're
look
in
can
the
kill.
courthouse, particularly in a courtroom, but even in the
That is
courthouse
amazing.
itself, there is a sort of
See
somber
that?
sense.
Looking straight into the
It's not
camera.
a happy place. Most people don't
Wow.
like being there. You don't go to a courthouse typically because you want to
Awesome.
be
Here
there.
he goes.
And so there is that feeling, and this
Good
is
night,
a dreary
Matthew.
courthouse.
I am Donald
and
Trump.
So, you know, I do think that we may see a very different Donald Trump tonight at
there we saw it.
Mar-a-Lago than we're seeing inside that courthouse right now.
I also, you know, look at the sternness of the
I've
faces
seen that.
of these
Let's just,
officers. And, you know,
you know,
Dan, you mentioned it. For those of us who have
let's see if we
served,
can replay that
answered the call for
great
jury duty,
moment.
you understand that day in and day out, they work these cases. They protect the people of New York. They're in this courthouse. That is their job. They take it very seriously. And you didn't see, there wasn't even a moment that was.
We're going over to the NBC News now.
Please welcome an absolutely new crossover.
Donald Trump will beat them all, yes.
Multiplayer
He
action
will.
game about battles and cool.
Will be behind Mr. Trump and his attorneys, and on the other side will be if her
office.
It took a lot.
The former president.
Yeah, you try to tell your clients not to say anything, not to talk to anyone, and whether it's Donald Trump at a podium or far more often, Jonathan, I'm sure knows this too, they get on the
Go on. He's going to address the what's in the indictment, and he has sort of engaged that way with the press to date.
And that's, by the way, a picture of him going into the courthouse earlier. Right. He does hold things close to the vest. That's a description I've heard many times of him. In talking to people who know him, did they think he would have gone for this if he thought that it was weak and the way it's been described as weak?
motion, and then there'll be adjournment for the prosecutors to respond.
Go back to ABC.
We're deadly serious about it. And one thing I can tell you, courthouses are rarely places of joy.
right at the camera. One thing Donald Trump
He
always
looked right
knows,
at the camera.
whatever room he is in is where the camera is. And he
There we
looked right
go.
at the camera.
There we go.
glared
Look
at
at
the
that.
camera, and he walked into the courthouse.
There is something different, though, and this goes back to something we've been talking about up to this point, which is there's something different about
That's a
walking
mean
into a
man.
courthouse.
He means
There is.
business now.
There's just a different feeling.
That's
That
a
even
one
if,
pissed
when he
off
gets back to
president.
Mar-a-Lago, he starts, you know, going back to much of the rhetoric that he's issued about this DA,
Oh,
et cetera.
looking right in his
When
face,
you're
doesn't he,
in
eh?
the courthouse, particularly in a courtroom, but even in the courthouse itself, there is a sort of.
He looked right at the camera. One thing Donald Trump always
I want to get my
knows,
still
whatever
shot,
room he
everyone.
is in is where
Let's
the
do it one
camera
more
is.
time
He
and we'll
looked
get
right at
my
the
still
camera,
shot.
glared at the camera.
Here
and
he
walked into
goes.
the courthouse.
There is something different, though, and this goes back to something we've been talking about up to this
I
point.
do love an
which is
angry
there's
Trump.
something different about walking into a courthouse. There is. There's just a different feeling. That
There he
even
is.
if
He's
when he
looking
gets
at the
back to
camera now.
Mar-a-Lago,
There it goes.
He
Look
starts,
at that.
you know, going.
Ah, love it. Let's get my screenshot. Bish bash bosh. Oh yeah, okay, so that's my screenshot. Bam. Should be able to save that somehow. Let's do that again. Bam. And we'll save that as Trump. Oh, wasn't that exciting?
Back to much of the rhetoric.
He was interested in it. He would ask me lots of questions.
So I'm
about
just
it,
thinking
lots
the
of opinions
next
about it. And so I think it's probably a surreal moment for him. That for
the next we're gonna waiting for is Trump's
and today he is the participant.
Trump's message outside Mar-a-Lago.
Being fingerprinted.
Wouldn't it?
And he used to ask about that process as well. How does that work? What happens?
Love
if he
it.
surrenders to the FBI?
So what am I doing at the moment? Oh, I'm just doing
I
some
know that
promos.
he's thought a lot about this over the years in the context of other people. But for him to be going through this today, I don't care what his staff says, this is a very, very difficult day for Donald Trump.
Very, very difficult day for Donald Trump, everyone.
And you know him well, that he has
So what else are we going to do? We can invite guests on. Of course you can. You can come on if you want. You can talk what's happening with Donald Trump on Guam. And we're going to do some background music. Okay, cool. Let's get in the mood, yeah? Let's get some lo-fi.
As we speak.
Well, David, look, two different contexts, right? He's been extraordinarily successful.
So there we have it, everyone. Donald Trump. Donald Trump indicted. Sorry you're feeling so sad. Must be something about everyone I know he's down at the moment. Won't last long. Oh, thanks, Mandy. Kind of you to say. So yeah, good, everyone. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's well. We can get the chat back up on. Yes, nice. We can start grooving for a bit. Can't stay long. Can't stay long. We're going to wrap it up at an hour. I just wanted to catch that Donald Trump. I mean, it's quite big news, evidently, isn't it? Of course. So all we're waiting for now is Donald Trump to give his side of events at Mar-a-Lago, which will be later on today. Yeah, hopefully I'll be going live. It all depends. Enjoy The Last Kingdom, says Katie. Yeah, that was a good one, wasn't it? Yeah. Did you watch The Tiger King, Katie, says Mandy. Yeah, I've watched The Tiger King. It's a good one. Thanks for bringing this to us, Matt. My pleasure, Tina. Biscuits, nice. Tina's biscuits, nice. Nice. My pleasure, Tina. Dump. I want to pardon Tiger King, but he shouldn't never. I've never been tigers again. Oh, lovely chat, and it's good to have new faces, unless it's just new usernames. You know what I mean? Right, Trump. What else is happening?
You know, I can make this okay for myself. I can fight, but there is also, I think, the overwhelming thought going through his mind right now is how the hell
So Stormy Daniels,
how did this happen to me, and how
6 years ago, was that right?
Former Governor Chris Christie, former prosecutor himself. Chris, thank you. Always appreciate the context that you bring to the conversation. I want to bring back in John Santucci, who has been reporting out inside Trump world these last 24 hours. And John, you were describing last night at Trump Tower, huddled with his attorneys, his beefed up.
So, yeah, talking about something good to watch. We're watching Ted Lasso, even Ted Lasso. Awesome. Enjoying that. So, Easter weekend, next weekend. Look forward to watching some football. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to see much of Donald Trump now until Mar-a-Lago. So, of course, I took it America's been watching enthralled. Cameras followed him, didn't they? From Mar-a-Lago. And then landing at New York. Live coverage. So viewing figures, they're pulling in the viewing figures. On CNN, 2.8K are watching. On Fox 5 New York, 5.8K are watching. On the Telegraph, 5.1K. On Sky, 6.7K. On Live Now from Fox, 44,000. Blimey, on NBC, 104,000. And ABC News, 69,000. Look at that. I mean, this is massive interest. Massive interest across the world. This is a moment in history. And so thank you for sharing it with me. But mind you, we are coming to get into the habit of sharing earth-shattering events with me, your host, Matt Taylor, broadcasting live from Brighton. Big shout out to my sponsor, because none of this would be possible without you, the audience. But of course, there's one particular person in there. Big shout out to my sponsor of the show, Brian PC. But going back to what Katie said, why this indictment and why now? We've actually answered that question with Tara Reid. Hints at possible investigation into Biden accusations. So, of course, we've already heard of Jessica Lee Collins' allegations that she was Joe Biden's sex slave on a dirty weekend to a Mexican resort. We now have Tara Reid, Joe Biden accusations. Let's do a standard Google search. Can't reach. Refresh. No. I'll change over to. No. I'm not being allowed to search. I know we've got some glitches in the system. So we won't be able to do that. The Donald's in the house. Isn't that cool? The Donald's in the house. Shouts out to the Donald. Paul the Krause. Yes, I mean, look at that. We just saw the viewing figures. Huge, isn't it? I mean, this is combined audiences of millions. Oh, can you see what I see? 54, 30,000, 1.5, oh, 330, 21K, 10K, 9.1K. It's just blowing up, mate. This is a moment in time.
In the picture is very close
Oh,
with the family of Donald Trump, with Kimberly Guilfoyle and
this
Don
is
Jr.
pictures of him
And I
inside.
think that's how he was initially brought into this case. And I think now you're seeing Todd
How
Blanche
fascinating.
being brought in.
We got pictures
to be
of him
maybe
inside the
lead
courtroom.
Sort of legal voice on this. Joe Tacopina's been
Fucking. Let's look how other. Oh look, that's the best picture yet. Best picture yet of Donald Trump inside the courtroom. First photos released of Trump in courtroom for arraignment. Yeah, it's not arrangement, isn't it? Arraignment. There we go. Paperwork. There's attorney writing something, wants Trump to read. Trump's like, yeah, look at this. Fucking hell. Two coppers. One's got a mask on. Looking down at Trump. Look at that. Looking down at him. Fascinating. What do you make of this first? Oh, look at this. The attorney is deep in thought. Having a bit of a pout, actually. Trump looks non-fussed. First photos released of Trump in courtroom. Right, we should be coming up to an hour. 10 minutes to go. Court officials, not cops, says Boston. Court officials, not cops. There's a difference, don't you know? There's a difference. Thanks for pointing that out to me. Appreciate it. Don't be shy, jump on in and say hi. And thank you for everyone who has done. Boston, Mandy, Katie. Oh yeah, you're talking about Hugh Grant, aren't you? Is it Hugh Grant? Yeah, Hugh Grant. Brian PC, big shout out to Brian. Hi and hello, Brian. So big shout out to Brian, Boston, Mandy, Katie, Kaylee Inav. And we got Donald, and then we got, I was going to say Donald Trump in the house. Someone just as famous as Donald Trump, Brian Hurl. We got Brian Hurl in the house, haven't we? We've got Knob Cheese Vegan, nice name. Brian Hurl, yes, Dream Team, number 3. It's a sad day seeing Trump in jail. It will be. I don't think it'll ever happen. But it set the precedent, hasn't it? Get it? Get it? Set the precedent. It set the Donald Trump. If they can do it to Donald Trump, we can do it to everyone, can't we? Of course we can. That's when the tables are turned. Katie says, Branson's Virgin Orbit has filed for bankruptcy in other news. Katie, that's brilliant. I didn't know that. Really? Wow. Well, breaking news. We've had some good stuff from Katie today. So we've had Tara Reid. And then we've had Virgin Orbit. Redundant. Oh yeah, gone into, gone folded, hasn't it? Bankruptcy. Wow. How many other Branson companies have gone bankrupt, I wonder? Big news. Big news for my team. Boss Don. It's not about the views, mate. It's not about the views. It's about the event. It's about bringing people together. And so we will be wrapping it up at an hour, everyone. We've covered this. Hope may go live later. May go live later when Trump addresses. Let's give him time to get back to Mar-a-Lago. Just going to be a couple of hours at least, isn't it? Yeah, so let's let him get back to Mar-a-Lago. And then, what should we do then? We may go live. Yes. We're into the last 10 minutes. Big shout out to everyone who jumped in and said hi. Boss Don, Brian PC, that's our sponsor of the show, everyone. Shout out to the show's sponsor, Brian PC. Couldn't have done it without you. While we're doing the shout out to Mandy in the house, #1 subscriber. While we're shouting out to Mandy, let's remember the first one in the chat room today, Truth Warrior, KT. Shout out to Captain Justice, whistleblower or snitch. Don't be shy, jump on in and say hi. Oh yeah, and remember, there's a call out. There's a difference between shouts out and calls out, don't you know? Anyway, I don't know what the difference is, but call out to Simon Lord and call out to Jupiter. Nice one. Remember, everyone, you can get all the latest news from Trump Social. So let's go and do that straight away. Oh, for goodness sake, I have to log in. Yeah, we have some technical issues. I've been logged out for all my stuff. We'll try and get back in there. Gay Matthew says, Captain Justice is no snitch. Of course he isn't. Captain Justice is a whistleblower. That's good. Good to see someone standing up for whistleblowers across the world. Nice to see, Gay Matthew. I'll give you 100 brownie points. There's Brian PC giving out his pleasantries, because of course that's the etiquette, isn't it? If someone says hello to you, it's only gentlemanly to say hello back. And of course, no finer gentleman than our show's sponsor, Brian PC. He doesn't just help me, he helps hundreds of people. So a big shout out to Brian. Couldn't have made this happen without you. There's some more love coming Brian PC's way. This is what I like to see. Let's share the love, everyone. Let's throw the love out there, yeah? Good. I like it. Come up, last 5 minutes. Poor Donald Trump. What's going to happen to him? Is he going to end up in jail? Very much doubt it, but we'll see. Anything can happen in this day and age. That's for sure. But, you know, it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. What's happening on the world stage is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And then we've still got Donald Trump maintaining that the 2022 US election was rigged. There's a shout out, make it happen for me, Brian. There's a lot of people in need, and I'm so grateful that Brian has come to my need more than one occasion. So yeah, he's couldn't have done it without you. Today's sponsor, the show sponsor anyway. Last 5 minutes, everyone. Show the love, everyone. Show the love. Great to see Captain Justice is no snitch. Yeah. Check out my blogs. Selected, not elected. Yes, quite right, Katie. Quite right. I mean, I was saying earlier, I don't agree with Trump's on kill all drug dealers. I mean, fucking leave the drug dealers alone, mate. You know, there's ways of solving the drug issue, and that is stop going to war on drugs. But anyway, we'll talk about solutions to the drugs another time. But I disagree with Trump because he wants all drug dealers killed, doesn't he? I think it's a bit hard. Considering the whole family are sniffing cocaine. And also the issue about fracking. I'm dead against fracking. Oh my God. Someone's getting frisky out there. Listen, this isn't a dating site. Someone's getting frisky out there. Yes, Matt, it would not be possible without all you guys. Yes, well. Hey, listen, Brian, thanks ever so much. Easy, Tiger. It's great to see the love, everyone. Last 3 minutes. Let's give Trump time to get back to Mar-a-Lago. And hopefully when he goes live again, we'll catch up with him. Until the next time, I've got a King Arthur script to start on, actually. So yeah, King Arthur script, that's going to be fun. Get that movie up and running. Loads of stuff to do. Loads of stuff to do. So I hope everyone has their own plans, dreams and aspirations. You know, if you haven't, fine, just keep doing what you're doing as long as you're happy. That's one thing I liked about the America and the Constitution of the Declaration of Independence, when they mention the pursuit of happiness. And I think damn right, it's good that it's gone down in paper, isn't it? That we should all live for the purpose of happiness. And so I wish us all the best in attaining that happiness that we all so desire. I just want to be happy. Long time love you, says Vidic. Who is that? Who is that image you've got there anyway? Genie in a bottle. Message in the bottle. Last 2 minutes. Sometimes I feel like throwing my hands up in the air. There's still loads of blogs coming out, everyone. What happened to them? Oh, maybe. Brian is sharing the love. Good to see. Whoever you happen to be, Brian Shaw, someone is out there to go lamp rubbing with you. And that's something we should all be aware of. There's always someone out there that can give you a good lamp rubbing, if you know what I mean. There's a lamp rubber just for you somewhere out there. Thanks for going live, Matt. Good to hear you sounding better. Yes, thank you ever so much, Mandy. And sorry you got the butt of my frustrations earlier on. It was only a bit of a joke. Yes, and we caught another moment in history, didn't we? We've done an hour, everyone. We've done an hour. So let's wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up with a minute outro. But yes, another moment in history. Thanks for joining me, everyone. Let's do it again soon. Until the next time, remember, King Arthur loves you as I love you too.